not to totally support.
Exactly. Yeah.
Filipe, how you doing, man?
Good, and you?
Felipe, I've got another, like the company I work for has a meeting that's simultaneously starting. So I'm gonna try and be on both. So you may see me in and out here for a while.
It's okay.
I'm really interested in this. Especially
Hello,
in light of Apple's announcements yesterday.
Yeah, what Apple did announce about PWAs yesterday. I'm not aware.
Well, they're trying to not totally 100% support them. If I understand correctly, they don't really want you saving, the icon to the desktop on OS X. If I understand correctly, I would, double check all this stuff. But I kind of get the sense they're trying to not 100% support.
Yeah, you mentioned this in the beginning here. Like, it's funny because PWAs, the idea of PWAs come from Steve Jobs, but Apple does not support it. Then it's kind of a weird situation. But anyway, I will explain a little bit more about it. Hello. Feel free to open your microphone. You're starting like in 2 minutes, just to give some minutes to people to join. Hello, Martin. I think you're muted, but you can. Shenkis, if I mispronounce your name, please forgive me. It's hard for me. Pedro, I know how to pronounce Pedro. It's a Brazilian name, probably a Brazilian. Okay, some mute. Hello, Martin. I think you are unmuted now. Hello.
Hi.
Hello, Martin.
Hello, Vic.
I'm starting 1 minute.
Gotta bring up my other thing.
Okay, let's start. I think we are recording. I don't know if I need to exclude this guy, maybe. I'm trying to keep these like open zooms, but maybe that will be an issue. Last time it was okay, but I enabled I put these guys in the waiting room, then I think it's okay now. I just don't know if other people need to be approved by me. But anyway, can you hear me? Can I start?
Yes,
Okay, let me share my screen. I don't have a presentation because this is more a talk than a presentation, but I have just like 3 slides here just to introduce myself as well. Then the idea here is just to talk about PWAs and Meteor, not just like PWAs, because we have a lot of content out there, PWAs with Meteor, but just if you don't know, who am I? Oops. Okay, this slide should not be here. My name is Filipe Névola, and like I'm a Meteor user for many, many years. I don't know how many years. And I'm also a developer, architect. I also like to teach code. I read work as an instructor many times, and I'm also a developer evangelist for Meteor. Then I have these roles. I think you probably know me already because otherwise you wouldn't be here. But let's talk about PWA. Like, what is PWA? I think maybe for some people that's not very clear. Like, what is PWA? Because for me, the whole idea of PWA is just to try to provide the best experience for everybody in a web environment. Then I don't see any like very strict like description. What is a PWA? the idea is to try to provide the best experience. Like then if you have clients that are using your app in a slow connection, you want to provide a good experience. If you have like some clients using like a small phone, you want to provide a good experience. Like if your clients should use your app in the desktop, maybe they should open the app when the system is starting. Like if you have a new Windows and your user should use your app like every day, then probably want to start your app together with Windows and not require the user to remember to open your app every time. Then there are a lot of use case that you can think of. You can like improve the experience. And the idea of the browsers and also the operational system is to improve this experience over time, providing more APIs. And this group of APIs and ways to interact with the web, they are usually calling PWAs. And even like Google is like trying to push this idea forward for at least like 4 years. And Google is also providing this this way to publish apps in the store that are not native apps, they are PWA. It's pretty early yet. It's not like well supported and easy to do, but you can already publish PWAs to Google Play. And I don't think Apple is going to do this or soon or ever because they earn a lot of money from subscriptions and other fees in the App Store. But at least you can provide this for the users that want to have it. And we also can, sorry, just one, like we also can use PWAs on iOS, but it's not the best experience because you can't send push notifications. Then it's kind of okay experience, but you can't send push notifications. And that's the missing piece that Apple is holding to try to avoid everybody to sell the apps outside of the store. But just like, is PWA a new concept? No, it's not new at all. Like I have a talk just about PWAs that I did a few years ago, but like just this slide here, like PWA, the concept of PWA, it's like this, like, and guess what? There is no SDK that you need it. You have got everything you need if you know to write apps using the most modern web standard to write amazing apps for iPhone today. Like that was a speech from Steve Jobs in 2007. Of course, later they come up with the store concept and they start to make a lot of money with the store. And then I think they change a little bit how they think about it. But the original idea to provide a better experience just using modern web standards, it's from Steve Jobs. And it's a very old concept. But in 2016, Google come up with this name, Progressive Web Apps, in Google I/O 2016. Then we see this term coming up a lot after 2016, and Google is investing a lot on this as well. Like some Google apps, I think the Weather app is just like a PWA. You can't just download in Google Play. Then Google is really investing. I don't know now, but Google Flights, it will, because now who cares about flights now, right? We can fly anywhere. But like Google Flights, last time I used it, it was just a PWA. It was not available in the stores. Then like Google is investing a lot in this idea of provide a better experience just in the browser. But like for Meteor, I'd like just show code here. I'm not going to like blow your head with some crazy ideas because that's not the point with PWAs. Like PWA is not to create something that's very different, very like innovation. It's more like the standards of web working well in the phone, in the desktop, anywhere. And I will show like I am creating PWA since 2016 with Meteor, and then I have created a few in these years, and I can show maybe one or two and a few ideas that how I'm using PWAs, and a few like ideas also how to have just a single source, and you can provide multiple PWAs and different experience for your users, and I will try to explain this a little bit better. Let me just start with this app here. Like this is it's a real app. It's not just a dummy app, and this app is also a PWA. Like one use case that I'd like to show that's not very explored, and for a Windows user it's very important, and it's also a PWA concept that I would like to show here. Later we can talk about like audit, lighthouse, and other stuff. But you can see like everything, almost everything here is okay. I'm running locally because of that. It's HTTP and not HTTPS. But in general, it's okay to create a PWA with Meteor. But just before I show the code, I'd like to show you like how one use case that you have for this, like for Windows machines, that's pretty cool for us. Like this app, it's an app that the client can ask for food or any other product actually. And of course, the restaurant can receive this request and produce the food. Okay, I think every country has some kind of this app, and this one is built with Meteor. And then like what you want for the restaurants, we want them to install in their machines, because when the restaurant is open, we want that our app is also open because they can like reply to the requests faster. Then like this is a PWA, a Meteor PWA, and you can install in your machine. Like you have this plus button here, and you also have this on Edge on Windows. And then you have this plus button here. I'm on macOS right now, and I can install this app here. I already have the production app because of that you see two apps here, but I have like this idea of Chrome apps here. And on Windows, it's just an app. Like macOS, they have this idea of Chrome apps, but on Windows, it will be just an application. And you have even like a video, like you can use as an app here. You can see like, I don't see the navigation, and then the restaurants can get orders. But you can also have a video here where you explain like how to put on Windows to start with your computer, and then it's just like an app like any other app. You can put the command to open when you start up your Windows machine. Then that's just one like use case that I don't see a lot, but for us that we need to have this app running all the time in the restaurant's machine, it's a pretty good solution. Then you just install and you drag to the initialize folder, and then every time the restaurant is online, he have the app running in his machine. Like this is just a PWA concept, but usually when you talk about PWA, you talk more about the mobile, and it's not about the mobile. Like PWA, it's just about web. Okay, then like I would like to have a conversation. Like if you want to ask something about it, I will show a few code. But do you know that was an option? Like you can have an app installed in the desktop without writing any Electron or native code. What do you think about this? Were you aware of this option?
Yeah, we use it for the desktop as well, but it was interesting to see you put it in the startup. But yeah, we do have installed, when you install from Chrome, we have a bunch of applications running as a desktop as well. That's the beauty of PWA.
Yeah. Okay, that's pretty cool. And another concept that I'd like to show you that maybe is a little bit unusual is that we can have like different applications running under the same domain. And that's really powerful as well. Like if you have BMark here, but I could have a different application. I don't know if this domain, yeah. Like I can have a different application that's called like Brivola. It's just a different domain, but it's running on Galaxy. Then Galaxy accepts requests from as many domains as you want. Then it's going to the same server. But if you look to the header here, I'm not customizing the color, but I could. Like I have the PWAs, the PWA manifest here somewhere. Let me see PWA JSON. And if I open the PWA JSON here, like the same server is serving this application and also bmark.com. Oh, I don't know how to format here. Let me open another tool. JSON file. Like the same application, like bmark.com and brivola.com is running in the same Galaxy containers, but for the brivola.com, it's not saying, oh, I am bmark. It's saying I am Brivola. Then I used this as well when I was working for Pathball full time. Like we can create completely different apps using the same backend. And this is really, really powerful. Like you can change the color of the browser, you can change like everything, the logo, you can change a bunch of stuff because it's just the web. Then like, of course, you can also build multiple native apps using the same source code, but it's not as easy as just like change the domain, and then by the domain, you can return a different content for your PWA, a different color. You can even allow the user to select which color he wants to use in the top nav bar. And like, that's just another concept that I'd like to explain here, just for you to know that that's possible. And I'm doing this with Meteor as well. The idea here, I don't have any restaurant set up here, but the idea that I could use like Bmart as a marketplace, and you could use also Bmart as a single page for a restaurant. Then you don't need to have the marketplace. And again, it's the same app behind, but you can have different color, different manifests and everything. But let's see a little bit of like this code, like how this is running in the background. Like the first part that is important for a PWA, I believe, is to generate the PWA JSON, right? And you can basically do this in two different ways. You can have a static file in your public folder. Then if I go here to this project and I go to my public folder, I can have any JSON file here. I can just follow the standard expected by PWA manifests, like short name, long name, and the icons and everything. And then I can just register this in my header, like my HTML here. And then I can just put a link, and that's it. Probably almost every browser is already identify your app as a PWA, not like a full PWA, because you can also improve your PWA with more capacities. But just with this, like just put a file in your public folder, following this standard, like where to start, how to display, the orientation, the background, the theme color, and then you have already this, and you can go to your application tab, and you're probably going to see something very similar with this. Like this, then this is the first step, like have a manifest. Like you need to have a manifest, and that can be static, but also can be dynamic. As I showed you, I have the same app that is served. If I go to bmark.com/pwajson, I get a content. And if I go to brivola.com/pwajson, I have a different content, but it's the same app in the backend. And like how we can do that? Like I have a package here where you can register an endpoint in your application, because sometimes you forgot that Meteor is just a web application, because we have a lot of things that are just magic for you, but Meteor is also just a web application. And then like with this package, or you can do it yourself, like the package code is pretty short. You can just like define your settings, or even define dynamically what you want to return inside the PWA JSON. And then you can also do in a more complex way, like you can get dynamic data. Like this is like what I was explaining on Bmark. I could get, based in the URL, what is the store that the user is accessing right now, and then I can extract the data from this specific store. Or I can get the domain and get some properties from the domain, or some properties from some data in my database, and I can just serve dynamically. That's like, you don't need to do this if you just have always the same settings in your PWA. But if you want to have more powerful, more flexible PWA, you can also customize this. And if you look to the code here, I have this custom endpoint on Bmark, and then I can get like a lot of data from the store, as I showed you, like Brivola. Why Brivola PWA JSON that I have here? I think it was here. Yeah, this is the Brivola. Oh, sorry. It's here. This is the Brivola. You can see Brivola, but then you can see the code here is that I get, if I am in a link that is for a specific store, I get the store name. Otherwise, I just get a constant. Then that's the idea. Like you can customize what you're producing in your manifest based on the actual domain. And we can customize a lot of things here. Like even another thing that I don't see a lot of people using, like Bmark is also an app in the Google Play and in the Apple Store. Like if you go to Google Play, Bmark, you don't need to choose between PWA and a native app. With Meteor, you can create both. Like who needs to choose is the user. The user wants to install or not. App Store, Bmark. Then Bmark, I'm just using Bmark as an example here because it's my app, then I know how to explain what it does. Like we have Bmark here in the stores, we have Bmark here, and we also have Bmark as a PWA. But like when your user goes to your website, what do you want? Like you want to promote the PWA or you want to promote the native app? Like this is also an option in the manifest. You can put here if you prefer native or if you prefer the PWA. I can explain about this later. And also you have the related applications. Then you can say to the PWA manifest, like, okay, the Google Play is this URL. And then when the user selects to install the app, then Google or whatever browser is following the PWA standards, it's going to check this Boolean to decide if it's going to install the app from the store or if it's going to install the PWA. Then you can also configure this here, and it's very useful for the user. He just loads your app, receives the pop-up or like clicks to install, and then the operational system is going to decide what's best for this user. Then it's like very flexible, and it's a nice way if you want to convert users from the browser to the native app, so you have like push notifications and everything. And then it's a very effective way to encourage your users to install your app, and that's also possible here. Again, like here I'm showing this where it's dynamic. I can have multiple PWAs and multiple apps in the same code, but you can do exactly the same just using the default manifest. Everything is static. I'm just showing this one that's dynamic, but you can follow the same structure for a static one. And here is just a code to put the Google Play URL, and here is just like the app ID and the iTunes ID. Like nothing complicated. You can just hard code this and serve like this in the PWA JSON as well. Okay, then I explained like you can install in the desktop. You can have this nice selection between native and also PWA, and you can customize dynamically. You can use this package if you want to just write this in your settings, then you don't need to even create the JSON file. You can just use the settings. You can also use the same package in an advanced way, just connecting the hook. And like this package, what this package is using, it's just using like Meteor standard way to connect web handlers. And then like this is a lot of boilerplate code to prepare the JSON for you, but that's the Meteor code. It's just this, like you just connect a handler here and you just return the JSON from the manifest. Like that's the code to produce this dynamic behavior or to read from your settings. Okay, any questions? Like you are too quiet today, like you need to interact more. Like you have any questions about this platform? Do you know about the related applications and the preferred related applications configurations for PWAs? Go guys, help me.
Well, that was new to me, Filipe. Yeah, those two. But we have the same. We generate the manifest dynamically as well from the user settings. So that's we have very close code to that, and it's like you said, it's very powerful. You can just customize the icons on the phone as well, make it pretty much dynamic. So let the user select, change the name, etc. So it's a very powerful feature.
Yeah, and it's powerful for SaaS business because then you can really deliver like a SaaS experience. Like every client has a different service, and the client will pay more if you can like show them like it's your app and it's not shared between your clients, then your client's probably going to pay you more if they have their domain, their logo, everything in the same place. And you can save money because you can just have one server running on Galaxy or whatever you want. But on Galaxy, it's a little bit easier because you can map a lot of domains, and Galaxy will do the hard work for you, the SSL and everything. But anyway, you can host anywhere, and then you can serve multiple different apps. And
Yeah,
it's good
that's exactly
that we are
exactly our
doing.
use case. Yeah, for SaaS players, they want to see when you do a demo, they want to see their own logos and colors, etc. So we can do that easily, and as opposed to publishing to the stores, and like you can just quickly create that, make it configurable, and the client can then install it easily.
Okay.
But I was curious about, you have something about the notification, I think, or if I'm not mistaken, the manifest. Did I?
I will jump to this right now. Okay, then next topic. Like we have a lot of topics inside PWA. As I said, it's just a group of standards. It's not like one topic that you just explained. Like the next step that you can do that is not available on iOS, and that was I told Vicky that Apple is trying to hold as much as they can. Like we have a lot of groups of developers that are pushing and pushing Apple to give up, but Apple is tough. They are not going to give up that easily. And then we can't send push notifications on iOS. Forget about this, at least for now. But you can send this in different platforms. Then you can send this in the desktop, and you can also send this on Android. Then it's a very powerful feature that you can just send push notifications without an HVAP. And that's the configuration that you need to do. Like you need to have here I'm using a provider that's called OneSignal. Like I don't receive any commission to talk about OneSignal, but I just use them on my apps. Then, oh, I can type. Okay, I just use it on my apps, and I like their service. It's free, and I think they have like additional service that they charge for. Like I know they have inside app notifications, and they have a lot of features, but push notification, as far as I know, at least on my account, it's free, because these companies sometimes they change the pricing, but for me it's free. And it's really powerful. You can send mobile push, web push, that I think what I'm going to show you, and also in-app and another kind of notifications. But the web push, it uses the PWA technology behind it. And then I have the GCM sender here, and I even commented this code here just to not like scare you first. But let me explain then why you need to have web push notifications. Always remember, like not working for iOS. It's going to work everywhere else, even in the browser for the desktop, and that's good. As I told you, like the mark is used by, oh, Zoom is always in the way. Okay, the mark is used by restaurants. They can click here, like I want to receive notifications. This is in Portuguese, sorry, but that says, trust me, I want to receive notifications. And then if you click here, then I can click allow. And from now on, like OneSignal is going to send notifications to this restaurant, and these notifications are going to pop up in the navigator. Like they can do this in the desktop and also in the mobile. And how this works, like before I need to explain Serviceworker, because the only way, or like in general, like the only way for your application to interact with the user without the user being looking to your page is to using a Serviceworker. Then the Serviceworker is like an engine, like a pooling that is installed in the browser, and then it can work even when your tab is closed. Like even if the user closed this tab, I still can send the notification to this user. Because of that, we need to have the Serviceworker to be able to send the push notification. Then, and the Serviceworker is not only for that. The idea of a Serviceworker, you can intercept any requests between the browser and your server. And then that's very useful for offline features. Like if you open the mark without a connection, but if you already have the cache, it's not going to break. It's going to return 200. But for BMark, we don't support offline because it makes no sense how we are going to buy a food offline, like nobody's going to receive your request, but at least the app is not breaking. Like if I go to offline here, let me go to the home page. I return to notification, but I need to explain service worker first. Then if I go offline and I refresh, I'm doing a full refresh. As you can see, my app is still available. Like the resource, the code is still there because I'm using a cache, and the service worker is saying for the browser, okay, I'm here. But like the data, in this case, because I'm not caching the data is not available. So my GraphQL endpoints are not returning the data. Because of that, you see the skeleton here forever, because I don't have data, because I don't have connection. But at least my resources are available in this case. And if I want, I can just save my Apollo cache or my mini Mongo or whatever. On Pathball, they save the mini Mongo. Then you can save whatever front-end cache that you have, and you can show this data here. Then in this case, I don't need it. As I said, what's the point to have a offline app to make orders if nobody's going to receive your orders? But you could have this done easily. And that's only possible because the service, you can see the service worker here. The service worker is responding with 200, and you can see it's coming from the service worker. Then that's very important. And what I have here, I have just a code to avoiding try to install the service worker on iPad or iPod or whatever. Otherwise, you can get errors in the console. And as we can install it, I'm just skipping it. And the code is just like very simple. Is this like code that you register a service worker? Just to be safe, I'm also checking if the service worker object is available in the navigator. And I also check the iOS here. That's the code that's in the top. And then I can register my service worker. Then you can read the docs about service worker, but the idea is just to call the navigator object, service worker, register. Then you can log if it was okay or if it was with error. But the important part is here, this file. And I know a few people are requesting, like in Meteor right now, we don't have a way to put this code inside a package. And I know other frameworks, they have a way to get this from a package. But in Meteor right now, we don't have a way to put this code inside a package. And then people are requesting this. We are probably going to implement a way to provide a better way. For now, I think what most people is doing, like this guy created a service work for Meteor. And then people are just copy and paste, I believe, from this guy. But this code is not like very complex. The idea here is to intercept requests, right? Then when you install, we can do stuff. When you activate the service worker, you can also do some stuff. But the most important one is when you fetch data. Then every time that you're going to do any network request, you can intercept this request. Then here I'm just checking, like if this is a text or HTML, then I can just get the last data that I have, if the hash is the same. And it's just like a simple check to see if I have this data or not. And then you have some special treatment for sock.js because these are going to be the connections between your client and your server for Meteor if you're using WebSockets. And then this code is available here. I think I made a few changes, but just for my case, I don't think I have like big changes. You can see the code is pretty similar to the original code. And you can also put some, maybe you have a CDN, then you probably want to cache the URL from your CDN. Then you can enhance a little bit this code. Okay, but that's pretty much the same code here. And that's it. Like with this code, you just copy this guy and you have this service work init. I'm probably calling this service work init somewhere. Yeah. When my client is just starting, I'm just importing the service work init. And then I can call all this code. Like this is the first thing my client is going to do. It's on my index. And you should put like as soon as possible to just start up this service worker. And you can watch this in the browser. Like, let me go to localhost again. You go to application, you can see service worker here. You can like unregister the service worker. And then when you refresh, it's pretty fast, but you can see like it's installing and then it's installed the service worker. You can see my log message here. It was this log message that I showed you. And that's it. The service work is up and running. If you configure the push like to use like this, you can do some commands here as well. You can see the oranges, but I'm not running on HTTPS. Then the PWA is going to disable some behaviors if you're not running in HTTPS connection. And basically that's it for the service worker. And now that I have a service worker, I can use like the OneSignal SDK. I just return the original code here. I can run this OneSignal SDK worker. They provide this in their documentation, okay? Then you can have this OneSignal, and you can call also my original service worker, the one that I showed you before. And I can also include the OneSignal service worker. Like this service worker is the responsible to do the push notification. Actually not to do, like it's going to receive the push notification. The good part about using OneSignal is that you can have like a standard way to send push, and then OneSignal is going to figure out how to deliver this push. Then we use the same code to send the push for native and for web, but of course you have a different code to register this user, and I'm going to show to you right now. Then you need to also, like when you click, I want to receive notifications. Let me find the button here, then I can show you the code. Oh, it's not this button. So, where's my button? The text was not this. I want to receive push. Let me just find by push here. Oh, I have a lot of push. Okay, here, web push button. This is the name. Okay, this is just a React component, but the idea here is not like React. It's just the OneSignal. Like this code is documented in their documentation. I'm just showing here because Ali asked about this part. Then we have this service worker that I register here, just recapping. Then I need to register this service worker, okay? And this code is going to ask for this SDK code. Then we just need to, because maybe by default, you can just request the user as soon as they open the website, if they want to receive push notifications. But that's a bad practice, right? Because the user just opened your site and you're going to ask, oh, can I send push notifications? Most of the users are going to click no, because they don't know what your site's about yet. Then it's better to add a button or to do something to the user be aware that you're going to ask for this permission. And then when the user click the orange button that I just clicked, this is this React component. Here we are not showing this button on Cordova, because on Cordova we have push notification, then we don't need to have web notifications. But if you are not in Cordova, then you have this React effect here. We have the OneSignal, and you have the push. This is just the configuration that you need to do. I don't know why OneSignal did like this, but this is just an array, and you're just push functions to an array. And then like you need to push this init function, and you need to provide your API ID. Again, like this is in the OneSignal documentation. Then you just get the ID from your API with OneSignal, and then you can see if the push notification is enabled or not. And you can check this, and you can also ask for a subscription change. Then if the user is unsubscribed, when they click the button, then it becomes subscribed. And you need to set the player ID. Player ID is the name that OneSignal gives for each client. Like it can be like a web client like this, but can be also the native client. But that's the good part, because it's just one ID that's going to register like, okay, this service worker from this specific device have this ID. And then you get this ID and you save it in your database. And then when you want to send a push notification for this guy, you just use this player ID. Because of that, I said, you don't need to care like how this push notification is going to be delivered. You just need to save the player ID from the guy that did the authorization. then that's what this code is doing. Like, as I said, the OneSignal, I don't know why they have this push. Like, this push is just add a function, add a function. It's a weird way to do it, but anyway, then when this callback returns, like the get user ID, we get this code that OneSignal is going to provide for us. And then we need to have any code to just save this ID in your database, because you need this ID to send the push notifications later. In this case, as I told in the other live call last week, I'm just using Meteor call, because when I don't need graphical, I just prefer to use Meteor methods because they are so much easier to write and less verbose. Then I'm just using a Meteor method here to save this player ID. I'm also sending a lot of data from this user because I want to collect this data, but the main data here is the player ID. Then I send the player ID and I save this player ID in my database. Then I probably have a player IDs in my schema. Like in my user schema, I have this player IDs because the same user can have a lot of devices. They can register in the web, they can register in the native site, they can register the way they want. And then just to be a complete example, I just use these player IDs to send push notification. But again, like OneSignal make it very easy. I just need to call this endpoint and I just provide my body and what player IDs I want to send to, and that's it. Like I can send notifications now for native and also for web push clients. And that's it. Like this is I'm not hiding any code, like all codes here. Of course, you have more details that maybe we can talk in another call or even today if you have more questions. But you can also provide like a custom route. When the user click in the URL, they are going to a specific part of your application. That's pretty useful because like we send a push notification for our clients, like review your order. Then when they click the notification, we go to the order page, not to the home page, because otherwise they need to navigate to the order themselves. Then we need to learn like how to pass the data, how to get the data in the other side. And I can show this today or not, it's your call. But that's the code. Then you register using the service worker here. Then this service worker is going to provide you these functions that are, they are weird, but it's not my code, it's just the OneSignal way. It's very weird to call this push all the time, but it's the way the OneSignal works. And with that, you can register the player ID, and then you send the player ID to your server. And in the end, you can just send push notifications using this player ID. Make sense? Are you, Ali, you said that you are not using push, or you just want to see my code?
Actually, we're planning to implement it, so it was very useful for me to see. I think we're going to try OneSignal, so I really appreciate that.
Hey, if you don't want to use OneSignal, you probably just need to write a little bit more code. You need to maybe register another server, because to use OneSignal, you need to create an account on Firebase from Google, but maybe you need to do more steps there. I never did without OneSignal because it's just easier and it's free. But if they start to charge, then probably I'm going to check how to do this directly if it's too expensive. But for now it's free, then it's okay. It's going to work.
So what about the native? Like you're saying, this is the same, this pushes as native as well?
Yeah.
Like if you have a Cordova app with iOS?
Yeah, let's go into this topic then. Like this is the part to send the push. It's exactly the same. Like as you can see here, I don't have a code to detect if this player ID is native or not. I'm just registering them in the same way. But of course, I need to run a similar code that I have here to add the player ID. If you see, I have other ways to register a player ID. And the other way is the Cordova part. In the Cordova part, I also need to get this player ID, and I need to send this as well to my server, because I need to also get the ID. It's the same idea. I need to register, I need to get the ID, then I will be able to send push. But the good part is the push is going to be exactly the same. But let's see how I do this for Cordova. Like for Cordova is always a little bit messy, and you can see I even need to ignore some like AS link rules. It's not easy to write a clean code with Cordova. But in the end, what you need to do, here I have more configurations, but the important part is this one, okay? Then when your code starts, if you see, it's probably inside a Meteor startup, yeah. Then when your code starts, in my case, it's just when the user is logged in, because I don't send push notifications for anonymous user. Otherwise, you can just remove this part if you want to collect a lot of player IDs to send anonymous push notifications. But in my case, I just send for people that I know, like the user ID that I'm running inside on login function. Then we have this callback for OneSignal. This is also a Cordova plugin. Cordova plugins. It's the, where is it? Here, OneSignal Cordova plugin. Then we just need to use this plugin, and you have this function here. Again, you need to set the app ID. I don't know if you remember, but it's basically the same idea of the web. The app ID is the ID registered on OneSignal. I need to register a callback for the notification when it's open. Okay, then I will explain why. And also I need to get the ID when I have the user. Then when the user install the app for the first time, OneSignal plugin is going to ask, do you want to allow push notifications? When they click yes, this function is going to be called, okay? And then you can, again, send the player IDs. And here is just like to inform the Cordova plugin that you finished the initialization. But this is also important, like what to do when a notification is clicked, because this is the part that you can get the data from your notification and you can do something about it. Like you can even, if you are offline, you could store some data inside the notification, send it to the user, and then if the user receive it, but it like the internet's pretty bad, you could even provide a preview. Like if I always think about this on Twitter. Sometimes I received the notification and I was online, but when I click, the tweet's not available. But if you want, you could embed the tweet here, and when the user click, you can get the data back from the notification. And then I have the data back, but the only part that I use here is this custom field that I add, this route field, and then I can send the user to the right spot in my application. Then that's my use case, but you could embed many, like as many data as you want here, and you could provide some preview even if the user is disconnected, but that's what I do here. Then I go to the specific route. I don't remember if I have more specifics for native. Let me see if I have something special here. I probably have some ideas or some, but I don't think nothing that is, I think everything. And I'm also, like talk about native, I'm also working this Cordova example here in the Meteor repo. And I have a lot of explanations here about OneSignal and how to configure your app, like the step-by-step guide, like how to do it. And if there is any details that I'm not remembering right now, it's probably well explained here. Yeah, setup, blah, 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 create a Firebase. Yeah, everything is here. Then you can just follow these steps here. I even have this explanation that is a little bit tricky, how to get the proper icon in the Android, because on iOS, it just uses the app icon, but Android, you need to put custom assets just for the notification. And then I am also providing like the instructions here. I will probably improve Meteor build a little bit because right now we need to use this special folder that's called Cordova build override that Meteor's copy after the build. But you should provide a better way to also inform this kind of image, because for now we are just providing a way to inform splash screen and icons, but you should provide also for notification icon. For now, you need to do this little workaround here, but it's not working. Then you have the custom icon also in the notification. If you don't provide this, it's going to work, but your user is going to see just a bell. Then the user will not be aware on Android, like what app is sending notification, and it should spam because the icon will be just a bell, and it's bad, right? But that's it. I don't know if there is I don't think there is anything more about push notifications yet on native. Just that, like web, you can use this, and native, you can use this. And all this code is going to be available in this example. A good part of this code is already here. And I'm going to include like all these configurations here and explain like step by step how to use it. It's a long document, but like native is boring. Then you need to, yeah, I'm also going to include these informations about PWA here. Questions?
Is this document online or you still
It's
like the one
online.
you just showed?
It's a brain.
Oh, it's online. Okay, okay.
I can send here on, oops, chat. Martin is asking a question. Martin, you can open your microphone and you can speak. PWAs, do they run on the system thread or in the browser process? Okay, that's a hard question. I would guess it's in the browser process, but somehow the browser is also integrated with the operational system. I don't remember, Martin, if the service worker is going to run even if the browser is closed, but I think so. I don't know if Ali knows that.
I'm not sure. I don't think it's going to run when the browser is closed.
No?
But we can, yeah, we can check. No.
But why are you asking, Martin? Because of that, if the user can close the browser or not?
Yeah, I'm asking because when you close the browser, will it still run because of the service workers?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I would guess they will, but Ali is guessing they will not. Then I'm not sure. But it's probably
Well, yeah,
to check.
Yeah, you have it running, so maybe I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't remember if I received like the Gmail notifications when the browser is closed. Service workers are going to run when the browser is closed. I think the idea is to run, but I'm not sure if they run. Let's see. First, it can say depends on the platform. Okay. Need some background trust. Let's say my class is quite used to detect. No, but I think the answer is yes for the most case because I already have an app that was not a native app, just a PWA, and the people were able to receive push notifications using the service worker.
Well, it says on mobile, from that answer, it says on mobile it should be able to run, but on the desktop, I guess if the browser is closed. So, yeah, which makes sense. I think that's how my
but
experience
depends
as
a
well.
little bit in the implementation, right? Because Chrome or Edge, they could also initialize some service in the background.
Yeah, and in the background, yes.
But for Android, now that I remember after your question, like for sure it's going to work. Because otherwise, what's the purpose of like the push notification? Because the user is not going to receive anyway. But for the Android, I'm sure it's going to work. But for the desktop, I think it depends. But I think that's the only bad part about PWA, because there is this fight between like Google and Apple. And then like sometimes Apple just make a release and break some part. Sorry, Mark. You want to say, Mark?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. Then there is this fight, and then sometimes Apple just implement things in a different way. I think just to have this conflict between Apple and Google. And there is a guy, I don't know if I will be able to find his Twitter easily here, but he knows everything about PWAs, and he's always investigating like what Apple is doing, and he always publishing like what's the current state. But I don't know. I think I can send the link later. I don't think I'm going to find him here, but he's always posting a lot of stuff about PWA. He's very good. Maybe I have a list with this guy, PWA. I think it's this, maybe it's this Connect. No, it's not. This guy is also about PWA, but it's not this guy. This guy, this one, Alex Russell, I think he chose the name PWA. Like he choose the name. But, oh, this is the guy, Maximiliano Firkman. Like this guy, he has a lot of guides about PWA, and every time that Apple does something, he publishes it. Oh, here again, the what's new for developers. Yeah, Apple.
Yeah, I was just following his account today and trying to see if Apple is going to introduce anything, especially the push notification.
Yeah.
But I don't think I think we'll have to wait another year or so.
Yeah, and sometimes they break past features, and it's crazy.
Yeah, that's the only thing that's holding it. If they just implement the iOS push notification, I think a lot of developers will just go with PWA.
Yeah, I agree. Let's see what else. Like we have here. Of course, you can use like the local storage, the session storage. I have another app that I was developing like 3 years ago, maybe more. Like this app was 100% offline as well, but I'm not sure. I just run this like 20 minutes before the meeting, and I think it's not working offline anymore. But maybe I think it's because I'm not using HTTPS, then my service worker is not fully working. But that was just an app that I did in the past, like many years ago. And it was pretty cool because it was very light without any native stuff. And it was working offline, online. But the idea here was very, very simple and just using Meteor methods. Because of that, I think it's cool to explain. Like I have this state here. Like I don't see this code for 3 years. Then I will probably be lost in a few minutes, but I can try to at least explain the idea because it's pretty cool what you can do just with Meteor methods. Let me see if it's here. But I have a code here that when you call, refresh index. Let me get the Meteor call, not refresh. I think this one is the main call. Then I have a very simple code that writes this to the cache. This is a very old code, okay? We didn't have function components yet, just classes. It was terrible. But the idea is here. Like every time that I update the state using React, I was also saving the state to the local storage. Then if I didn't have access to the network, I just fall back to the state. And then it's very easy with Meteor because Meteor methods are very simple to write. And then we could have this logic like this. Like when the company did mount, I was getting first the data from the local storage, like offline first. And then later I was trying to refresh with data from the network. Then it was like just these two functions, the save and the load state. And I was able to have this offline approach in this app. And if I could implement this in a better way and providing more states and more local states, that would be like a full offline app working really well here. Then it's just one idea because like PWA, it's a kind of old concept and Meteor is also like a framework with many years. And so people think it's not possible to implement amazing PWAs with Meteor just because Meteor is not a new technology, but Meteor provides everything that you need to do a lot of different stuff, even using WebSockets and Serviceworker and everything. And that's just another example that I had using PWAs. What else? What else?
I think you covered everything, Philip, as far as I can tell. Yeah, it's a good walkthrough. So from Meteor, do you think is there anything else we can add to make the experience of configuring PWA easier for people?
Yeah, I have a few ideas. I think the first one would be to provide a better way to import the service worker code. Then you can just like Meteor add service worker and you could have a standard service worker for Meteor. I think that would be pretty like good to do. Another thing that we could have, but that is a little bit in the data layer, we could have this way to store data offline. And I know a lot of companies have implemented this with Meteor. Like I know of Pathbo, I had this simple solution. I know a lot of other companies that are using Meteor offline as well. Then because as you have this idea of mini Mongo, if you can persist mini Mongo locally, then it's very simple to do it. And if you compare with projects that they don't have like the full database in the client, it's harder. Then Meteor is also in a good position to have this offline database. But I don't think you need to write a lot of code. Maybe you need to talk with some companies that are doing this, and you could just like extract this code to a package, because we have a lot of companies using offline Meteor, but they are not sharing the code. And then the community as a whole can benefit from this. And maybe another company right now is just writing the same code and the same code. And I think this is happening a lot in the Meteor community. Like companies are writing a lot of good packages, but not exposing. And then people are just rewriting the same package over and over again.
Yeah, I think the ability to cache the Meteor method calls and all of that, I think extremely useful. It would be really nice to see some packages for that.
Yeah.
I was looking today at this. There's a library called React Query and things like that. I don't know if you've seen it. It does similar to what you're doing in terms of caching. You can use Meteor methods to make a call, but then it stores it in a cache. It's kind of like a mini Mongo for React. So some libraries are coming up, just 8 years after with mini Mongo implementation.
Yeah, when you see even like the Apollo cache, that of course, like the founders are the same, like the Apollo founders, the Meteor founders, but it's basically the same idea, right? And like, people think, oh, it's cool, but they don't know about like Meteor, and Meteor was doing this like 8 years ago, and it's basically the same. It's very, very similar. But it's harder, like on Apollo, because you need to work in the cache layer directly. But it's also a little bit easier because you don't publish everything, or you don't publish a lot of data that you don't need it. Then it's different trade-offs, but they are a very similar solution. But Meteor was done like 8 years ago, and it's always fun to see new technologies that are doing exactly the same 8 years later. Okay, we could start to talk about native, but I would like to have a different call to talk about native, because I show a little bit about the native part, but I have a lot of comments to do about native. I have already done a few apps with native Meteor. Are you doing native apps as well, Ali, or no?
I'm also doing web apps and PWAs because we're targeting enterprises. So, but I'll be interested to see it in native as well. So, but
for your company, it's not useful to have native apps of your product?
I think it would be useful, especially for iOS. But we're not targeting consumers, so distributing to the market is not priority. But I mean, I have a side project that run natives, but for the main business, we don't need it heavily. Yeah.
Yeah, just.
But I think.
Go ahead.
In our case, hello. In our case, we do PWAs, native apps with React Native, and the web app. It's with the notifications, also with OneSignal. It's very easy to set up on every platform, even for native apps or React Native or anything else. Then yeah, it's very easy. Even React Native integration with Meteor, we do that just because we're testing some things for that were not possible in iOS, and that push notifications were also a downside for us. So we are using a React Native, but in the case that iOS gets push notifications to and PWAs, it will be awesome to just have one code base and have a single app in React Native. So for specific things.
Yeah. And that's also what I was going to mention, like just to leave a hook for the next call. Like right now, in my opinion, and like I'm not like Meteor evangelist because I want to promote Meteor. It's like the opposite. Like I am a Meteor user for like many years, and because of that, I am a Meteor evangelist. And I really believe like Meteor is in the best spot to deliver like web experience and also native experience, because for now, Apple is trying to complicate the lives of developers in terms of PWAs. Then it's not just simple to use any web framework, but as Meteor has this integration with Cordova, and in the last 2 months ago, I believe, we updated like all the components. Like Cordova is running like the latest Cordova, and everything's running the latest version. It's pretty easy to create Cordova applications with Meteor right now and publish in the stores. Because of that, I'm writing this example and this extensive guide, because in the worst case, the idea is to just read this text and you'll be able to publish your app to the stores. And I think this is pretty cool, because I'm not a native developer. I was already leader from native teams, but I'm not a native developer that was years working the native code. And it's challenging. Like, it's not easy to just, okay, I will publish my app to the stores. Like, the app store is very complicated. They have a lot of like just the certificates and the provisioning. It's very complicated. Then it's very good to have this documentation. And I think with this in the hands of the developers, we'll be in a unique spot where you can develop a web application, just learn a little bit about native, and be able to have a quality app, a good app. Like our clients, the apps that I have that are native apps running with Meteor, they don't know it's not native. Like they don't have this, like developers, they know this because they are developers. They can identify, okay, this is a web component, but for the clients, they don't care. Like they don't realize it's not a native application if it's in the store. And you can even put animations and do a lot of stuff. And I think this is going to be pretty cool. But that's for the next call. Then I can show, because there is a lot of quirks. Like it's not easy. Like the plugins, the Cordova plugins usually are not maintained, but we are fixing this. We are publishing a lot of versions, and I'm working with a few companies that have also native apps to select the best Cordova plugins. And it will be in a very good spot in a few weeks. And I think it will be amazing to see a lot of web apps also available in the store. And it's also for the Meteor ecosystem, because you can attract a lot of companies if you are capable of providing this experience. Because a lot of companies are investing a lot of money training developers or migrating, and they don't need it. If they know JavaScript very well, they could create amazing apps with Meteor. And also, just the last hook for the next call, like dynamic imports and nested imports, the way that Meteor supports, it's a very powerful combination with native apps. And just Meteor has nested imports. And nested imports is a very important piece to have a performant app on Cordova. Then it's just Meteor will be able to deliver this for now. And that's it. Like that's just the hooks for the next call. Then you can be interested in the next call about native apps. I don't know if it will be the call for the next week, but that's the idea. Like every week to bring a topic here, try to explain, try to show some code, try to discuss. But the only ask is that you can talk more. Like you can participate more. You can show your code as well. Like the idea here is to have a conversation, not a monologue. Like I want everybody trying to talk. Like Ali is talking. Martin is also helping us here. Paulo already said something. Like Leonardo, he didn't say anything, but he should say it next time. But that's pretty cool, guys. Like that was my idea for today. And I hope you learned something, at least one thing. And then we can talk again next week.
Yes, thanks so much, Filipe. That was very useful. I learned a lot. Thanks. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Paulo.
All right, take care, guys. Take
care. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Bye. Bye.